I think we are live, right, Harshit?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I think we are live.
Welcome everyone to today's session. I'm Vani Kola, and I'm really excited for Play Forward, the conversation I'm going to have with Saurabh. The idea behind this is to bring, the shapers and stalwarts of our gaming industry so that other aspiring founders can learn from their insights as they pursue their own journey in growing their ideas. And I'm really thrilled to have Saurabh, founder and CEO of Ilo, the largest creator-led live streaming platform with over 20 million downloads in a very short time and is one of the fastest growing apps in India. I'm really proud of what Saurabh and the whole team has achieved. So, welcome, Saurabh, and congratulations on this. And thanks for taking the time today to talk. And I'm really looking forward to many milestones for you in the future.
Thank you so much, Vani. I mean, really happy to be here and having discussed so much with you while we've connected offline over opportunities in this space, creator economy, social gaming, live streaming. I'm really looking forward to the conversation and thank you for everyone who's joined in already.
Before we start talking, right? So I have this. The question always is, where did the idea come from, right? So if I think about a context, the global live streaming industry is, of course, growing very, very rapidly, and by some research estimates, it could be $100 billion industry globally in 2030 or so. And though it's a bit early in India, still we have over 80 million creators, and this is one way for them to truly monetize their content and so forth. But the question always is, like, you got to this earlier than most, and today you are the leader in this space. So what went into finding that initial idea that this could work, and how do founders get to be ahead? And as a corollary of that, how can others founders be at the early of something, where it's really the hardest to say, I'm going to commit to this idea?
Got it. I think I can really answer for myself first, one on how we sort of went about this and how this happened. I don't know. I hope I'm audible. Yeah. So basically, for us, it was very simple. Wait, I think the live stream is lagging a little bit. Am I audible? I think you're on mute, one. Okay. No, you were on mute, but I think this is fine. I think it's audible. So yeah, I mean on Elo, right? I'll talk a little bit about my journey. So when we were starting out, there was really no analysis as such on live streaming being such a large market and that we are going after such a large TAM. As a founder, I had just two things very clear on trying to build out. So one thing was that I used to do as a freelancer, right? I mean, I used to do stand-up comedy in open mic nights and gigs, right? So I was interested in this space of interactive media, creator economy. That entire space was very interesting for me. And second, I used to manage my own mom's YouTube channel. And YouTube, of course, is what is the synonymous channel, right, for everyone, that this is where content gets created. And I could see challenges there in terms of scaling up a channel, in terms of getting distribution, in terms of standing out of others. And that is where the realization came that possibly there has to be a newer medium that has to be looked at, and a very standalone verticalized product which really caters to streaming as a larger use case, as opposed to it being a small feature in a very horizontal app, because the audience is more deeply involved. There are very different use cases to solve for, and that became a starting point for my own journey on, it was self passion. It was a problem statement faced while managing a channel for someone who's very close to me. and figuring out that how can a platform really sort of solve that. And that got me into this category. And it, of course, wasn't a one hit in that sense. It took multiple sort of pushing the envelope, launching streaming, building out our first game, hitting PMF on one or two metrics, and then really sort of scaling from there. That became like the real starting point of Elo. And for your second question around, actually, just to elaborate on that a little further, you're right when you say that the market is so vast, and of course right now we are the largest in this play. But the reason for that is becoming very clear to me, and that is because this medium works on authenticity, right? And most creators now also want to be their true authentic self, present the best version of themselves, or the raw unfiltered version of themselves, actually not the best version of themselves, to their audience, to actually build a community. And that is where live streaming sort of sets aside, almost is different from short video or OTT or gaming, pure gaming, so to say. And when you add a layer of gaming into live streams, it almost becomes like a party house for everyone, right? Because I could be in it for the creators chit chat, I could be in it to play that particular round of game and get that sense of accomplishment where the creator is driving that connection between everyone. So it almost becomes like a category creation view, and that is essentially what we've been sort of doing in this space. So yeah, I mean, that sort of was the first view. And the second view on how founders can sort of look at this is, in any category that you want to scale, the right time to enter a category is before it becomes very obvious, right? And that is the most difficult part, because when it becomes obvious, that's where everyone's going to get into it, and you really would not have any differentiation. And I think the real answer there, while there is no formula, I think the real answer there is, if as a founder you have your ears to the ground and you're actually listening to what consumers are doing, how behavior states are evolving. Like for us, it was very simple. If you look at internet in general, it started with what? It started with MSN and Yahoo Messengers, where people were just chatting with each other and saying, hey, what's your ASL? I'm from here, let's have a conversation. So connecting with strangers was always there, and then they would either connect offline, play games, chit chat, whatever other outcomes can sort of happen from there. So we realized that that behavior existed, and product was not there in India to solve that use case. It was a category at that time where everyone was going after short video, and we decided not to pursue that category at all and focus on this. I think that was the pivotal moment, because as a founder you have to make a decision basis some data that you're seeing, some consumer insights, that you are an early mover in a potentially high TAM, right? And this may not just be live streaming. For somebody it could be another space in AI, for somebody it could be another space in a different format of gaming, where someone may want to build because they see the early horizons or early shoots taking off. That for us was what we saw in live streaming. We started seeing that people are going to crave this even further. Lockdown had actually accentuated this further, because people were remote, they wanted to connect. And Elo is actually a lockdown baby, if you think of it. It started right in the middle of the pandemic. So I think these were the factors where, even for other entrepreneurs, I would recommend that just look at the consumer insights, see what industry is not very obvious, not breaking out, build some small experiments, see if you get early validation, and then choose to sort of scale up further. Yeah.
Couple of questions. I thought we should just discuss it to set context again.
Right.
Um, from I saw Milind and Vaibhav ask if creator economy is going to burst, if it has reached a saturation point. And I guess, follow on to that, I have seen a lot of people wonder whether creator economy is a, flash in the pan, and it's just a buzzword.
Yeah, no, I think as a founder, you don't really think of anything as a buzzword, right? Because as somebody who's building in this space, let me just basically say that if you are a person who's putting an opinion, as in you're tweeting about something or you're sending a post about something, you're already a creator, right? Because there was a thought in your mind, you manifested, you created something out of it, and you posted something there. You are as much a creator as someone else, because you're becoming a content creator now. You're trying to share your views. You enter a creator economy when you're trying to get very serious about it. You're posting more frequently, and now you're really looking after distribution, monetization, etc. My view on why I think this is a space that is here to stay is twofold. One, as and when more and more people start, as the country's GDP in general starts trying to grow, starts growing beyond a certain level, GDP per capita grows, people's needs, people's aspirations start growing. They want to look at alternate sources of not just validation, which is something that a creator gets, but also income streams, which really is what the creator economy is about. And the biggest factor around that is whether you're able to actually form a relationship with your audiences and gradually directly monetize from them. And I don't think this is ever something that is going away, because for more and more people it's actually so early in the journey in India in terms of creator economy, because we've just gone out of the entire ambit of people wanting to just be a doctor, engineer, etc., to now saying that, hey, I want to become a streamer, I want to do short video, maybe I want to be a design, I want to do Figma, and I want to become a freelance designer. Many other creative pursuits exist. So I think it's very, very early stage in this sort of space. Second, from the data that we are seeing and from the kind of trends we are actually looking at, a, an creator's ability to influence or to assert influence, right from something as simple as what Mahendra Singh Dhoni did while he was just playing Candy Crush and he got like millions of downloads of the app, to someone who's coming live on Elo and hosting a game which like lakhs of people come together and play. What we've seen is that the creator's ability to influence is just starting out, because audiences or people trust people. It's very simple. I mean, I trust you because your recommendations matter to me, because you're another person who I can relate to, etc. So that is really what why the creator economy is becoming what it is becoming, that people can share opinions, people can be their true authentic self, and if creators are able to monetize from that, then I think the sky is the limit. So I would say very, very early stage of this industry, and it's going to be one of the biggest spaces in general. Thanks,
So
man.
let's talk about money as in funding, which is always the most difficult thing for founder to just feel like others believe in you and give you an opportunity to follow your vision. And especially in gaming, right, there is not a lot of funding, maybe not as much of a problem in early stage, but definitely a growth stage. So just talk about some principles of raising capital that worked for you, and maybe you can overlap that with stage, right? Because there is angel and there is early, there is after you've gotten some traction. So you have done both. You've raised, from India, where it's not easy to raise for gaming. But it's even harder to raise growth capital for India for gaming. And you have done both. So what are the takeaways for founders to think about?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And look, in any consumer tech sector where you're building, which requires an intersection of technology, distribution, and ultimately real strong user insights and product thinking, it would require a certain amount of capital. It would require that. So that goes without saying. So I fully agree with that, that there are life stages of capital raise, etc. I think the way to go about it has been that, and I can share for Elo's perspective, you have to have some amount of usage indicator that indicates PMF, right? That is, there is someone whose problem you're actively solving for, and you're aiming to see usage. You're seeing usage and seeing repeated usage at that. For us, it was very simple. Very, very early on in our journey, we had launched a very simple game which was live Tambola, right? And it was just people coming in and playing bingo live, and a creator is hosting that. We once got a TV star who came in just as a favor on the app called Kiku Sharda, and he hosted this particular event. And we started seeing the entire app break out. I mean, lakhs of comments, thousands of concurrent viewers, and we realized that, hey, we've hit something here, and there is something that is really, really working out. People are enjoying this experience. We are able to handle the traffic pretty well. Both demand and supply have come together in a very interesting form, and we kept at it. We got more creators, sort of started hitting more PMF, and that really made the whole capital raising, etc., easier, because we could already see that there is strong demand in place. We figured out supply, and we had built in-house games. The whole beauty of where we entered in this space, and why I feel interactive media and gaming is such a lucrative sector to build on, is that if you have just two things, one, you have something proprietary where there is something which is different about you as opposed to everyone else. For us, it was we've combined live and games together, and we've built those games in house, so we know the technical expertise, we know how it is done, it's built on an RTC, etc., and that was working very well. And number two is just usage and repetition of that usage. When you see both, you start seeing fundraise and other things becoming more obvious, and you would rather start seeing more quality inbounds coming in as a founder, because the best way, and some of my best sort of conversations have been where I've gotten inbound from someone saying that, hey, someone in my family was on your app and they played a game and they really enjoyed it. And I think that's the best kind of a conversation you can have as a founder, because then you already have some kind of a relationship that is now built in. So it changes as per stage. And I want to just touch upon what you mentioned on angel versus growth, because metrics tend to change and expectations change at every stage. Like, for example, when we were just starting out, and Kalari has been one of our earliest backers. I mean, you came into our second round itself, like the pre-series A stage. And the big thing around that has been that the pre-series A, series A stage. So at that stage, I think what we were starting to see was, at that time, it's just about really strong usage, strong distribution, and the diversity of or the use cases that you're sort of solving for, or one use case being solved in absolute depth. And for us, it was about live streaming and games happening on a platform. It is clean entertainment, and the metrics were all really solid in terms of distribution, engagement, retention, etc. So I think that was the big one at that stage. And then now at a growth stage, at this stage, it is of course evidence of early monetization potential, scalability of the product, and can this be something that where strong unit economics can be built out. So it's either something that is fundamentally intertwined into what the category plays, or it's a product that has sort of built it very differently. And in this case, what we realized was that a combination of live streams and games is inherently that, because one, you're not incurring storage costs as opposed to what a lot of entertainment sort of companies go through. So your unit economics tend to look very good in terms of infra, etc. Second, you've sort of set up a relationship where the audience can directly gift creators and monetize from there. So I think these factors are very important when you're looking at some kind of a growth stage raising and stuff in gaming or in the interactive media space. So I think those were my two sort of takeaways.
So, Saurabh, I want to talk about if a founder or an aspiring founder, in your case, right, you say, I have this strong vision of where the world is going, but you're not necessarily a tech founder who's going to like code and put out the product late tonight and wake up in the morning and then code again, right? So you have to find a way that your vision can become a product, or someone else maybe is deep into technology, but they don't know how to take this product into a distribution and market and all of that, right? So regardless, how do you find then sort of the team that can help you complement? And that is also one of the fundamental questions, especially in something like gaming. It's not that easy to get that team and talent together,
Yeah.
as it might be perhaps in SaaS or something like that, right? So how to go about it?
I think great question, Mani, and it's something that we've faced. I mean, we've had our own share of our own journey around this entire piece, because as an early stage, you typically will always, as a very very early stage company, have more detractors than believers, I would say, right? And as a founder, I think you're always pitching in life. You're always selling. You're selling your vision either to folks who you're partnering with or to prospect employees, right? Who you want to bring in. I think two factors here, which are very important. One is that as a founder, you have to figure out what is your niche that you are going to be contributing the most in the company in. Let's say you're a gaming founder and you're an ex game designer who has that competency, so you can add that value really well, and you can figure out others who are bringing in different sets of values, because you initially need a leaner team to just figure out where PMF lies, etc. And your strength, and others who can sort of complement that. One of the best ways that works is if you're able to pull in talent who's worked with you prior. that's always very helpful. Like for me, for example, it was about bringing in folks I had worked with previously. It was about folks who I met and realized that they have the same vision as I do and they want to build on this together. I think that always sort of helps. And the second aspect around this is when you start seeing some early stages of scaling, it's very, very important that you're able to sort of bring in people who are aligned on, or at least looking at the world as similarly as you do. I mean, what that could mean is, let's say you're building a game in the interactive space, then you have a vision for, let's say for us, it's about people replacing televisions altogether in terms of their game show needs and just being on Elo. And because that's the choice of entertainment for millennials. So the phone should take over, you play interactive games, you chit chat on this platform. And if there are people who see the world in the same lens, then you're just going to have it much more easier to work together and everything else can follow. So talent, I think, comes from being aligned on the same principle, seeing a similar worldview, even if it's a contrarian worldview, but you're able to align on certain aspects of how that should be built. I think even that is fine. But having some kind of an alignment very early on in your career is in the journey is very important. And I think the third offshoot around this in terms of team building in this space is that building in games is a very challenging space, especially because you require people with, you can't just work with smart generalists here. You need functional experts also to come in. Like you might have game devs, game designers, you could have PMs who understand game theory and game dynamics. All of those factors become important. So for us, it's been a combination of experts as well as smart generalists who sort of come together and help build out Elo to the stage at which it has. So I think just having that factor in your mind that this is the problem that I need to be solved and these are the people who can solve it, marrying that view is important. And of course, aligning on the same vision and worldview really helps when you're building in this space.
So, Saurabh, another technical question I have is how do you think of metrics, right? What do you track? What should you track? Why should you track? But what is it that you track in your business to help you understand whether you have hit product market fit first, and then whether you are on a growth trajectory where you should, dial up, dial down, right? But how do you go about choosing what metrics?
In a product such as ours, where we are in the attention, everyone who's sort of building in the interactive entertainment or entertainment space or gaming space, I think the factor to really look at is that if you go 30,000 square feet above and look at it, you're in the attention economy, right? Where time essentially is zero sum, and people are ultimately looking at giving your product some time of their particular day depending on the use case that you're solving for, right? I mean, I could be a gaming app where somebody says that, hey, every time I take a 5-minute break, I want to play a round of this game because it instantly gives me a dopamine rush and I want to do it frequently throughout the day. Or it could be something which requires a slightly longer time. It could be something which is mid-core, hardcore. So I have to be free post 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. and spend a good hour on this product or good half an hour, depending on what your use case is. But the first metric I think in this space that is very important has to be engagement time or watch time for me, where if you're building in the streaming or game space, how much time are people really spending on your product? How much is that versus peers in this space? Are you really getting some quality engagement? And I wouldn't just call it engagement, I would say quality engagement, because are people actually interacting or are they just passively watching? That becomes like a second factor. So for me, engagement time is a big factor. Second is meaningful engagement. So what activities did you do inside this live stream? Did you comment? Did you play a game? Did you request to be a co-host? Were we able to build something what we internally call as lean forward, where did you get people to lean forward and play, or was it lean back and just sort of watch? Because those are two very different models. So for me, aside from the more obvious stuff on what your users are, what your repetition and retention and other factors are, I think just deeper, it's about what your engagement is, what is the quality of your engagement, because that is what will dictate monetization. Because if you just have surface level engagement that people are passively consuming your products, that's not going to be a very monetizable audience in future. So quality of engagement is a big factor. And then the third factor becomes retention and long range retention. So if you're going to be in a leaky funnel problem where after a couple of days all your users have vanished, so you again have to go about acquiring them from scratch. It's just ultimately going to be again a very zero sum kind of a product. So if you have quality usage, if you have sustenance in terms of usage, that becomes the third factor. It's very easy for a founder in this space to go after just simple vanity metrics that, I'll build the largest DAO, I'll build the largest MAO, but that doesn't help unless you have some quality engagement or retention in your product. And then you can go deeper into game mechanics or inside live mechanics. So for us, we track feature to feature retention. If you played today, did you come back and play tomorrow? If you attended a creator's live today, when that creator came live tomorrow, did you come and attend that? Because that gives us more deeper understanding of this entire sort of space. So I think those qualitative metrics matter a lot. And as a last footnote, it's about really balancing in most cases what your demand and supply metrics are. So what I mentioned right now are a lot of demand metrics. There are also a lot of backend and supply metrics. So as a product, what is your uptime? How fast does your app really work? Because you're ultimately building for Bharat. So you have to work on very simple feature phones, very early smartphones, etc. So how savvy are you in that space? Are your creator metrics good? Is your creator retention good? Are they coming back and creating on your product? These factors really matter.
Another question, maybe worth for us to discuss. I think a couple of people, Himanshu, Priyanka, others have posted, is should watchers also earn? Today, obviously, there's a way, shouldn't watchers, I should say, probably, also earn? Platform earns, obviously, creators hopefully earn also. But then what about the viewers?
I think that's, we've discussed this once, if you remember, offline as well, where,
Yes.
once we were discussing about the entire space on creator economy and Web3, right? Where,
And also
uh,
equitability, right, for all
of course,
parties involved.
correct. And the principle that I really agree on has been the fact that it's ultimately about ownership, or it's ultimately about skin in the game for everyone. Like, for example, for a creator, it's about you're watching and I am able to directly earn a meaningful income from you because you're either tipping or there is an ad being served, etc. And I'm earning an income because of my viewers. And I think that's tremendously powerful for a creator, because you're able to almost democratize walls and say that, hey, now you can own your attention and you can almost put a time value on your streaming time and say my 1 hour equates to X dollars in terms of income. Now let's flip that. So for a user, I think what's very interesting, and a lot of platforms, including us, keep debating on this, that if because of usage, there are there are monetization opportunities happening. Like, for example, there's an ad that is happening because there are lakhs of people watching it. Shouldn't that entire thing be almost at some percentage distributed amongst everyone? I think the answer, and we are all learning towards it, it's not something that has a very clear yes and no, because it depends on the use case and it depends on what is the monetization avenue, can it even be shared, what are the platform fees and other fees, etc. But I think at a very principle level, I agree with the fact that there has to be something for the viewers to be more engaged around this. For us, for example, what we do is something on virtual coins, where we say that, the more time that you spend on the platform, you earn more and more virtual coins. And then there are benefits of those virtual coins in terms of third party folks, where you can redeem it inside the app, where you can spend it, you can redeem it again by gifting it to creators who you sort of like the most. So it's sort of like a currency that stays in. And there could be ways of sort of actually earning for users in future, where they are able to sort of encash their time. So it's something which is super interesting, where we have looked at a virtual currency approach. But I'm now seeing folks on Twitter, folks on Instagram now bringing in interesting stuff, that because you are a contributor to this platform, you have now started to earn a meaningful share. And for a creator, on that part, I'm fully sold, because as a creator, you gave us time, you build the audience, you build the distribution, you deserve the entire share. For a user, I would say that the more interactive they are, the more the platform is earning. So maybe it could be built on levels, it could be built on life stage of the entire user, but it's certainly something that is there to stay.
Let's go on a completely different topic,
Yeah.
Saurabh. When I met you, uh, let's say 2 years ago, approximately, maybe a little more, to today, you're a transformed man as far as your, just discipline towards health, wellness, and so on and so forth. And I've always been a long believer for myself, but for others, that if being at your peak of any profession, right, is a healthy mind, healthy body requirement as a basic. And to compromise on that has many long term repercussions. So I've always been one of those, even as a young founder, taken the time to mm, uh, understand what I'm eating, ensure no matter that there is no time, find the time to meditate and to exercise, right? Not compromise on that. And I advocate that to a lot of founders, though many founders uh, don't listen to it until much later in their life. And I've heard often, I have no time. But trust me, I have been there, and you can make time to things that you truly are important. And I would urge everyone not to neglect the self above anything else. And you have done a great job of that over the last couple of years. So, why did you suddenly say this is important? Maybe it wasn't sudden, I don't know actually. But then the discipline to do it. So, just talk about the journey, because I'd love every founder to first and foremost be their own advocates and value themselves. If you don't value yourself, your health, who will, right?
No, and again, this is a topic that is very, very close to my heart as well, because I think it's just about prioritization. So if it's important to you, you'll make time for it. It's as simple as that. I mean, if it's not important, then there are 100 reasons not to do it. There just needs to be one reason to do it, and that one reason needs to be strong enough. It's as simple as that. So for me, it was just a realization, and trust me, it wasn't something that came in as on day one of Ilo or something. It's happened gradually, but there was an aha moment. And for me, that aha moment was realizing that, when you look at a company, you look at assets and liabilities, right? When you just look at a balance sheet, I think a founder's health is actually an asset item in any particular balance sheet, because if you're healthy, both mental and emotional and physical wellness, right, you'll tend to make better decisions. You'll make better decisions for your people. You'll make better decisions for your product. You'll make better decisions for your board, for your investors, for everyone, because ultimately, as a founder, all you're doing on a day to day basis is making decisions, and you're having a great day if you've got 50-60% of them right. And that's what I believe. And your odds of actually getting that right is where you're in mental wellness zone, where you're in zen mode in some cases, where you feel that, okay, I understand this, I'm able to almost demarcate my emotions from this and make a pragmatic call. I think that was the aha factor for me, and it's very easier said than done, to be honest. For me, what I believe is practical advice on this, and the practical advice is get it done the first thing in the day, because that's where it's the easiest for you. Because if you really delay something towards the end of the day, there's going to be 2000 reasons not to do it. I can do one more meeting till 9 p.m., I can do that one last call at this point of time. If it's important, get it done at the start of the day. I've worked under Mukesh at Flipkart at a point in time. I've read about his lifestyle at Cult as well, and that was a big inspiration for me, to be very honest. Where, actually prioritizing that half an hour sometimes that he would do between a 2 to 2:30, and saying that, if I just do that and I resume back, I am far more productive and I am far more better. And I think a lot of founders should do that, either at the start or mid or end, any time of the day you're comfortable. But invest time in your physical and mental wellness. It helps you take better decisions. Is something that I truly believe in. And as a founder, you have to talk to everyone in a language that they understand. And for a founder, it's very simple that you want your company to become bigger, you want to take best decisions for everyone. Do it when you are mentally and physically fitter to take that. So, and yeah, that's broadly it. And when that becomes important for you, you'll tend to prioritize it and give it more time.
But I think I find what you did truly inspiring, because it's not that easy. You went what, from like 90 kgs to uh, 70 in a certain time, but what exactly did you, how, what, what was the intention and outcome? So maybe double click a little bit, because I think we talk about metrics
Yeah,
in
yeah,
companies, and it's the same thing here
correct.
also. I think
No,
it'll
no,
be
I
great
think.
to just have people understand that on what is possible.
I mean, metrics is my favorite topic, and I can go on this. So,
Well,
at
mine
the
too.
end,
I'm an investor. Look.
correct. Correct. So for me, it's just about install some, get something activated where it was very simple. I started this journey out where I was at about a 98 kg, and I felt that just from sheer movement or just simply I have an off we have an office, just simply walking or simply being with doing meetings where you're walking around, you're probably standing instead of sitting at certain points of time, you're just walking around with some other employee over a chai break or something, and actually not having chai but just walking it out sometimes is are really some small hacks that you can do. So for me it was very simple. I had set out a goal in terms of not just weight, but in terms of feeling good, which I can objectively calculate. And for that, it was a combination of weight, it was body fat, it was BMR, all of that. And I got a very simple tracker installed, which basically tells me that. For me, it's about if it's important, you have to track it, and progressive improvement is what you're really going to go after. It was a combination of health, working out, eating right. I mean, I've become a teetotaler from the last sort of what about 4, 5, 6 months now, and I don't regret it at all because I think I can still have enough fun when we all go out, but I can still do a little more justice to my health. So these 3, 4 things have helped, and now at about 82, 83, I feel I still have some time to go, but I think it's all come together well in terms of progressive movement. And when you see movement in metrics, you get encouraged and you want to do even further. It's the same for a company where you start seeing early traction, you're like, that's it, we've got something right, let's go deeper. And it's the same for your own health. So if you have a metric in mind, it'll move and you'll feel that all your efforts were validated.
Now, congratulations on this. I'm very proud of you taking that step, and I think for other founders also, hopefully, this is sort of the impetus and inspiring. And if they take away, oh, I heard Saurabh did this, I'll do that. That's a great use of our evening here together, I think. But coming back to creator economy, two-part question. What is it about live stream from a psyche that people get truly uh, engaged to want to be truly part of it? What have you found? Why do people value that so much? That's one part question. The second part question is, of course, today creators come in all backgrounds and all shapes and forms, so to speak, right? It could be age, income, language, genre, right? So at one level, it feels like there's a lot of that the barrier to be a creator is quite low. But in order to really monetize yourself as a creator, right? So just talk about creators doing what they do for fun, but also being able to then be able to monetize a lifestyle.
Interesting. Yeah, I think great question, Mani, and let me answer it in the two parts that you articulated. One is why live streaming is becoming so big, and what is it both? Wait, I think I've lost you in the live. Are you there? Yeah, I think we'll just
Here,
wait for Vani to reconnect.
can you hear me? I'm here. Not
I
sure
can hear
quite
you.
what happened, but yeah,
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
yeah,
So I
okay.
was just answering the first part of your question, that why it's become that bigger category and why it's becoming so big, both for creators and users. I think the answer to that lies that nothing is new behavior, to be honest. Most of the categories that become big in interactive entertainment are relying on some existing behavior that you're really building on, and it just translates to a different medium. For us, it was very simple. Most millennials in their household don't really relate to a television concept anymore. They don't relate to the fact that, it's all been done at a point of time. This game show was shot few days ago, it's coming in now. This reality show is not even real, it's happening in a very edited manner. As more and more folks have started sort of becoming embracing digital, they want their entertainment also to be very digitally native. So that form has already existed, and live streaming has just brought that, where you're able to connect with others in a very authentic manner. And that is the biggest factor, that I'm right now live with you and there are no filters. We are having a conversation. It's the same thing where there's a creator who's live, where suddenly I'm able to see, hey, this creator is very relatable. In that short video or in that video that I saw, it was all well done, edited, lot of lights. Now suddenly I'm able to see that, okay, this guy wears stuff that is relatable to me. They are in a house which has a background. I'm able to see and relate where do they live, what do they eat, what do they do. So that curiosity really existed, and I think that has become very true in live streaming. So if you look at Twitch, you look at more global players in that as well. Most people were not in it just to watch the streamer play the game. The game was the cherry on the cake, but it was about how the streamer reacts when when he shoots someone, when he does a particular activity. That headshot reaction was more fun to watch rather than something else. So I think that is one. Second aspect around why it's become very big is that you have so many social media apps, right? You have multiple entertainment apps. But if I tell you that if you don't have a very large social circle offline, which a lot of people across Bharat may not have at this point of time, and you just feel like talking to somebody, where is the product where you can actually talk to someone? You can actually say that there is nothing which is available. And in a stream, if you're able to build it with some context, which is games, and build it in a clean entertainment manner, which is what we're trying to do, then you're suddenly going from a one is to many use case to a very many to many use case, which is where I think the real larger market lies. And I think that is why the product or the entire category is becoming as widely successful as what we are seeing now. I think that's on the demand and early supply side. On the creator side, I'm a big fan of product life cycles in general. And I think creators also have a PLC, if you think about it, where I like to divide creators into three cohorts, right? There's somebody who's just starting out, and that's almost true for a product, where 90% of creators drop off at that stage itself, because at that time they are not looking for monetization or actually even large distribution. That time they're just looking for the right tools and validation. That's as simple as it gets. And the tools are what you provide them in a live stream. Maybe the ability to host a game, maybe the ability of AR filters and looking and feeling their best. Maybe it's other factors that you're sort of giving them in terms of tools, and early validation, where somebody, as a creator, would always look for short feedback loop, right? And the shortest feedback loop is a live stream, because right now you and I are live, and we are able to see comments, and we can actually gauge what are people saying. Is this making sense to someone? Do I need to change something? And that's what a creator is looking after at a very starting point. After that, I would say, is where it comes to early maturity, where that's when distribution, early form of monetization becomes important. I could give you an example of Elo creators. There's a creator here called RJ Goldie, who on Elo has now almost crossed 5 million followers. And she
Wow.
had about 30K, 40K on Instagram, came on Elo, and now is suddenly a superstar on the app. Everyone is always saying that when is RJ Goldie coming live next? And it becomes a huge factor. Like, when can we have RJ Goldie? When can we attend her live stream, etc.? Becomes a big factor for her as well. So that's, I think, the second part. And I think the third part comes into late maturity, where a slightly more established creator then looks at more monetization, because that is very important. And in the creator economy, there are two ways again where this has happened. One has been on ads, right, where platforms like YouTube, etc., have made that a very common medium. And second has been where you're actually able to earn from your fans and followers. And I think I'm a big fan of what a lot of sort of platforms, including Kalari, has actually written. A lot of VCs have written about this, that creators now want to own the relationship with their fans. And that is very important. When you're owning that relationship, then there's a concept called 100 super fans, where instead of having a lakh followers, I would rather have those 100 or 1,000 super fans or super followers from whom I can actually earn an income. And that becomes important for a creator at early maturity, late maturity, saying that now this is what I want to do. So I want to procure some gear. I want to do this full time. So I need a setup. I need to sort of demarcate some time, and it needs to be monetizable for me to do this sustainably. And that is where live streaming really sort of helps as a category. So we're seeing most creators now looking at early maturity stages. Very soon it will come towards a late maturity where they would expect more robust monetization, more steady forms of monetization. But the most important thing that they would expect is a predictable income stream, because then they are sort of leaving another job and pursuing this full time. So if it's something that is predictable for them, they would be able to do better justice to it. And I think that's what we're starting to see in this category. Hopefully in the next 2 years you start seeing many more examples of Indian creators being versions of what Mr. Beast and Logan Paul etc have been able to do in the US, where they could stream, they could own their own brand, they could build new stuff, and they could actually own their relationship with their audiences. And we're already seeing many examples of that in India.
So, one final question from me,
Yeah.
for any founders out there, what is an advice when you look back, right, that you would tell them from the last 3, 4 years of your journey in being a founder? What's the one thing they should be aware of, be prepared?
I would just say my biggest advice has been that I always tend to optimize as a founder. Your odds of getting things wrong or your odds of failure, odds are always stacked against you, right? Because the odds of a company becoming large, as you start scaling, the odds become smaller and smaller and smaller, right? I would say that as a founder, the two pieces that I can say, and if it's one, then I would say always optimize for speed over efficiency in this
You're
market.
allowed
Because
to, okay, by if you
I'm
want
allowed
to
to.
do two, okay,
I'm
fine.
allowed to. Awesome. Awesome. My first one would always be that always optimize for speed over efficiency, because one of the reasons that you're a startup is that you're meant to sort of break things, grow fast, and you can't do that by its following status quo. You have to disrupt quickly. And I am a big fan of saying that you can optimize, but you have to first do something which is, even if it's choppy, but you're able to see early POCs, you will then figure out more deeper products, deeper sort of ways of executing it, but always optimize for speed. That is the first thing that I would say. The second thing that I would say is that as a founder, you always would need a core team around you that really believes in you. And soon as you're able to hire your core team, the better it is, because you will then have people who would act as a sounding board and are able to take stuff off your day-to-day sort of workload, and that's very important. So really hiring the best people is the second advice, where in this case don't optimize for speed over efficiency. In the second case, I would say that optimize for efficiency or optimize for the best people who you can work, because someone who's not looking at the same worldview as you could set you back instead of taking you forward. So while in the first case I would say optimize for speed, in the second case I would say optimize for worldview, optimize for fitment, optimize for whether you can actually spend time with someone outside of work as well, and say that hey, we can also actually be a part of the same group, because you're going to spend so much time with your core team that you have to spend time ensuring that you get that right. And I've had my own sort of journey around that, and now I'm very proud to say that we've been able to build a very amazing team at Elo. So that learning is what I would give to other founders as well. Aside from that, I think everything else is well known, and I'm sure everyone's doing a great job at it.
So thank you so much, Saurabh. I totally loved it and enjoyed our conversation. And I know that we've both been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm just thrilled with the depth of insights, candidly, that you've offered, and wish you so much more success. So we can continue to give back.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mani. As always, amazing talking to you, and look forward to connecting again offline though.
All right, take care, Saurabh. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thanks. Bye
Thank
bye.
you to everyone in the audience. Hope that you had as much fun as I and Saurabh did.
Thank you guys. Thanks so much. Bye bye.